The traffic light at Broad Street in central Accra had just turned red. The usual swarm of yellow taxis, rattling trotros, and impatient motorbikes choked the air with dust and honking. Vendors wove between cars, selling cold water, phone credit, and roasted ground nuts. It was a scene as ordinary as the midday sun, until the black Rolls-Royce Phantom glided to a stop. People turned their heads. That car didn't belong here. Its polished silver grille reflected the chaos of the street like a mirror, yet it sat untouched by it, as if it carried its own invisible barrier. The back door opened. A woman stepped out. She was tall, poised, and radiant, wrapped in a flowing emerald green caftan, stitched with gold embroidery that shimmered under the heat. A silk headscarf framed her sharp cheekbones. Even through sunglasses, her presence was magnetic, pulling every eye in her direction. That was Adira Mensah. People knew her name. The world knew her name. She was the face behind Solaris Energy, Africa's first multi-billion-dollar renewable energy empire, a daughter of Ghana, Forbes Woman of the Year 3 times, and the force who brought light to villages that had lived in darkness for centuries. To some, she was a queen. To others, a myth. But Adira wasn't here for a board meeting or a speech. She wasn't here for a photo op or to meet a president. She was walking toward a beggar. He sat on the cracked sidewalk, hunched beside a faded Coca-Cola sign. His clothes were a patchwork of dust and holes. Around his shoulders hung a single thing of beauty, a red scarf, once bright, now frayed at the edges, yet still vibrant against the gray of his world. His face was young, maybe early 30s, but carved by hardship. His eyes were striking, hazel, sharp, yet clouded with something darker, loss. Beside him was a wooden box, filled not with coins but with books, second-hand novels, engineering manuals, even a torn physics textbook. While others begged with empty bowls, this man had a small cardboard sign. Books for food. Trade, don't pity. Adira paused in front of him. People gasped. Nobody of her stature ever noticed beggars, let alone stopped. He looked up slowly, shielding his eyes from the sun. She removed her sunglasses. Their eyes met. "What's your name?" she asked softly. The man hesitated. His voice was low but steady. "Kwame." Adira tilted her head, glancing at the books. "You sell these?" He shook his head. "Number I read them. And sometimes someone trades food for one. I don't like handouts." The crowd around them murmured. Was she seriously talking to him? Adira's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Kwame, I've been watching you." His brows furrowed. "Watching me?" She nodded. "Every time my car passes this road, I see you. You don't beg like the others. You write equations in the dust. You fix broken radios for the street children. You talk about things most people ignore. You sound like someone who doesn't belong here." Kwame's eyes flickered, but he said nothing. Adira took a deep breath. Her voice dropped lower. "So I'm going to do something insane. Something that will either make me look like a fool or change both our lives forever." The street grew silent. Even the trotros waiting at the light seemed to hush. She straightened her back, looked him in the eyes, and asked, "Kwame, will you come with me?" The crowd erupted in whispers. Who was he? Why him? Why now? Kwame blinked, confused. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," Adira said firmly. He shook his head slowly, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. "If you mean that, then prove it. Take one of my books. Read it. If you come back tomorrow and can tell me what it means to you, then I'll believe you." Gasps echoed. Was he rejecting her? But Adira didn't flinch. She reached into the box and pulled out the thickest, dustiest book. Principles of Renewable Energy Systems. She held it to her chest. "I'll see you tomorrow," she said simply. Then, without waiting for another word, she stepped back into her Rolls-Royce and vanished into traffic. That night, In her mansion overlooking the Atlantic, Adira sat at her desk surrounded by wealth, art, and glass. Yet all she saw was the ragged man with the red scarf. She opened the book. Inside, scribbled in the margins, were notes. Not random doodles, complex equations, diagrams, theories rewritten in Kwame's handwriting. Her chest tightened. This man wasn't just a beggar. He was a mind, buried under dust. And she had just made him a promise. The next day, as the city baked under the noon sun, Kwame sat in his usual spot. He wasn't expecting her to return. People with power never came back. But then, the Rolls-Royce appeared again. Gasps rose from the crowd as Adira stepped out once more, holding the book. She crouched in front of him, her caftan brushing the dirty ground. She opened to a page covered in his notes. "This," she said, pointing to a diagram, "isn't just theory. You've designed a hybrid turbine system here, compact enough for villages, low cost, efficient. Do you know what this could do for rural Ghana?" Kwame froze, his lips parted in disbelief. No one ever understood that. "I understand," Adira said firmly. The crowd leaned closer, phones raised, recording. Then she said it. The unthinkable. "Kwame, I want you to work with me. No, I need you to. Solaris Energy needs a mind like yours." Kwame shook his head violently. "I can't. I don't belong in your world." Adira smiled faintly. "You belong exactly where your brilliance can shine. Come with me." For a long moment, silence. The city held its breath. Then, Kwame reached for his red scarf, gripped it tightly, and whispered, "All right, I'll come." The crowd erupted again, but this time in cheers, whistles, and shouts of disbelief. Some clapped, as if a miracle had just occurred. Others shook their heads, muttering that it was madness. A woman like Adira bringing a street beggar into her empire? Impossible. Dangerous. Foolish. But Adira didn't care. Her eyes were on Kwame, and only Kwame. She extended her hand. For a moment, he stared at it as though it were fire. Then, slowly, his rough, calloused fingers brushed against hers. A spark, not of romance, not yet, but of destiny. "Come," she said, her voice steady, her presence unshakable. Kwame rose to his feet, his red scarf fluttering in the dusty wind like a flag of defiance. The moment he stood, the murmurs of the street turned into a storm. Phones clicked, videos streamed live. Within minutes, the story was everywhere. Adira Mensah takes Beggar into her Rolls-Royce. As they slid into the car, Kwame pressed himself against the leather seat like he didn't belong, afraid his dust might stain it. Adira noticed. "Kwame," she said softly, "this seat was made for kings. Today, it is yours." He said nothing, but in his heart, something cracked. An old wall he had built to keep the world out. That evening, inside Solaris Energy's glass tower, Adira led him to her private lab. Engineers and executives stopped in their tracks, eyes widening as they saw who followed her. A man in rags, his red scarf glowing against polished marble. "Who is that?" someone whispered. "Security will throw him out." But then they saw Adira's gaze, sharp as steel. No one dared speak again. Inside the lab, surrounded by prototypes and blueprints, Adira turned to him. "Tell me your story." Kwame looked away, his hazel eyes clouding. "It won't change anything. Let me be the judge of that." Silence. The ticking of the digital clock filled the room. Finally, he spoke. "I was once at the University of Cape Coast, engineering. I had dreams, big ones. I wanted to build systems for villages, so children wouldn't study by candlelight like I did. But life doesn't care about dreams." His voice faltered. "My father died. My mother fell ill. I dropped out to work. One job led to another until there were no jobs at all. One day, I woke up on the street and never left. The only thing I kept was the books. The books. And this. He touched the red scarf. My mother's. She gave it to me before she passed. Said it would remind me to keep my head high, even when the world pushed me down. Adira's throat tightened. She saw not a beggar, but a broken story. A genius buried alive. Kwame, she said softly, what if I told you it's not too late? He gave a hollow laugh. I've heard that before, from politicians, from preachers, empty words. Adira stepped closer, her emerald caftan brushing against his tattered shirt. Do I look like I deal in empty words? Kwame met her eyes. For the first time, he didn't look away. Days passed. Rumors spread like wildfire. Adira has lost her mind, some said. She's found her heir, said others. The media stalked every move. Photos of Kwame entering Solaris headquarters went viral. But inside those glass walls, a storm brewed. Not everyone was happy. Her board of directors saw him as a threat, an outsider, a liability. And in their private meetings, whispers grew into plots. We can't let her hand the company to a street rat, hissed one. He'll ruin everything we built. He's not one of us. But Adira didn't hear their whispers. She was too focused on Kwame, guiding him, testing him, challenging him. And every time he astonished her. His ideas weren't polished, but they were raw brilliance. Concepts her billion-dollar engineers hadn't dared to imagine. It was as though his years on the street had given him a different lens, a way of seeing solutions where others only saw problems. And Adira? She found herself drawn to more than his mind, his resilience, his honesty, his refusal to bow to wealth or power. He was the first man in years who spoke to her without fear. But Kwame carried shadows. At night, in his modest guest house, he would clutch the red scarf and whisper to his mother's memory, Am I worthy of this? Or is this just another dream waiting to break me? One evening, after a long day at Solaris, Adira invited him to her mansion. Dinner under lantern light, the ocean whispering in the distance. She wanted to know him beyond equations. But before he arrived, a message reached him. A letter slipped under his door. It read, She doesn't love you. She's using you. You're her charity project. Walk away before she destroys you too. Kwame's heart pounded. The handwriting was elegant. He didn't know it belonged to one of Solaris's directors. That night, he arrived late, the red scarf pulled tight around his neck. Adira greeted him with warmth, but he was cold, distant. Why me? He asked suddenly, bitterness in his voice. Why did you choose me? She looked startled. Because you're brilliant. Because you remind me of what I fight for. Or because I make a good story for the media? The billionaire who saved a beggar? Her eyes hardened. You think I need a story? Kwame, I could buy stories. I chose you. Silence stretched between them, thick with mistrust. Then Adira stood, her voice trembling but strong. If you doubt me, then leave. But if you trust me, even a little, then stay. Stay, and prove to the world that you are more than what they see. Kwame looked at her, his chest heavy, torn between fear and hope. And for the first time, he let the scarf slip from his fingers. The days that followed were restless storms. Kwame worked tirelessly, sketching designs late into the night. Miniaturized turbines, modular solar grids, water-purifying systems so simple and cheap that even the poorest village could afford them. Adira watched him with something like awe. Yet she also saw the shadow in his eyes, the doubt that never left. And then came the board meeting. The 12 directors of Solaris sat around a gleaming mahogany table, their suits crisp, their eyes sharp as knives. Adira stood at the head, Kwame by her side in a plain shirt, his red scarf the only color in the sterile room. This, Adira said, her voice commanding, is Kwame. And this, she pointed to his diagrams projected on the screen, is the future of Solaris. a low-cost hybrid energy system that will expand our reach tenfold. The directors shifted. Some whispered. Finally, one, a silver-haired man named Kojo Bafur, leaned forward. "With respect, Madam Mensa, this street philosopher is no engineer. He has no degree, no credentials, nothing but scribbles in the dirt. We cannot risk billions on charity." Kwame's jaw tightened. The word charity burned like acid, but Adira's eyes blazed. "This is no charity. This is vision. And if Solaris cannot recognize genius when it stands before us, then perhaps Solaris doesn't deserve to lead Africa's energy revolution." The room crackled with tension. Then Kojo smiled thinly. "Or perhaps, Madam Mensa, you no longer deserve to lead it." The attack came faster than anyone expected. Within days, the media was flooded with headlines. Adira's mad gamble, street beggar to lead energy project. Solaris investors panic as unknown man, gains power. Charity or corruption? The scandal behind the red scarf. Adira's stock plummeted overnight. Anonymous leaks poured into the press. Rumors of embezzlement, whispers that Kwame was her secret lover, that she was grooming him to inherit the company. Kwame was crushed under it all. Everywhere he went, cameras followed. Strangers spat insults. Once, a group of men cornered him in an alley, tearing at his scarf, calling him a fraud. That night, he stormed into Adira's office. "You should have left me on the street," he shouted, slamming the red scarf on her desk. "Look what you've done! Your empire is falling because of me!" Adira rose, her emerald dress catching the city lights behind her. "No, Kwame, they're afraid of you, afraid of what you represent. You are proof that brilliance can rise from anywhere, that their ivory towers mean nothing. That's why they fight you." But Kwame shook his head. I can't be your weakness." He turned to leave. And that was when the glass shattered. The bullet missed Adira by inches, slicing through her office window. Chaos erupted as security rushed in, dragging her to safety. Kwame froze, staring at the hole in the glass, the cold wind of the night sweeping in. It wasn't just politics anymore. Someone wanted them dead. For the first time, Adira's iron mask cracked. In the back of the armored car, her hands trembled as she gripped Kwame's wrist. "They won't stop until we're broken." Kwame's voice was low. "Then let them try." Hidden away in a safe house on the edge of Accra, the two of them found themselves alone, truly alone for the first time. No board members, no cameras, no guards, just the hum of the sea and the silence of the night. Kwame sat by the window, the red scarf draped across his knees. Adira poured herself a glass of water, though her hand shook so badly she could barely hold it. "You risked your life for me," she whispered. He turned, surprised. "I didn't think. I just couldn't let them touch you." Their eyes locked, the weight of everything between them, wealth and poverty, genius and power, lies and betrayals, hanging in the air. Adira moved closer. "Do you know why I noticed you, Kwame? Why I stopped that day?" He shook his head. "Because you reminded me of myself. I too was once invisible. I too had a mother who gave me a gift before she died. Mine was a ring." She held up her hand, the gold band glinting under the dim light. "It told me never to forget where I came from. You, with your scarf and your books, reminded me of the fire I almost lost." Kwame swallowed hard. His voice was hoarse. "All this time I thought you saw me as a project, a symbol. But I saw you," Adira whispered. "You, not the beggar, not the genius, just the man." The red scarf slipped from his hands. Slowly, he reached for her. Their fingers brushed, calloused skin against silk. The distance between them vanished. And in that fragile, stolen moment, two worlds collided, not as savior and saved, not as billionaire and beggar, but as two broken souls who had found in each other what they thought was lost forever. When they emerged days later, the city was waiting. The media, the board, the people, hungry for answers. Adira stood tall, Kwame at her side, the red scarf wrapped proudly around his neck. She faced the cameras with fire in her eyes. Solaris belongs not to the powerful, not to the wealthy, but to Africa. And Africa's brilliance is not found in boardrooms. It is found on our streets, in our villages, in men like Kwame. If you want to call this madness, then let it be madness. But let it also be the future. The crowd erupted. Some cheered, some jeered, but none could deny the force of her words. And as the chaos swirled, Kwame leaned close and whispered, so only she could hear. "You were never my weakness, Adira. You were the reason I remembered I could still be strong." She turned, met his eyes, and for the first time, smiled not as the Queen of Solaris, but as a woman who had finally found her equal. Years later, in villages across Ghana, children studied under the glow of hybrid turbines. Farmers irrigated their fields with clean energy. The world spoke not of Adira Mensah, billionaire queen, nor of Kwame, the beggar with books, but of the day two strangers defied a city at a traffic light. And somewhere, framed in glass in the Solaris headquarters, hung a single relic, a red scarf, not as a reminder of pity, but as the symbol of a love that had once hidden in plain sight, until the world tried to break it, and only made it stronger. Dear viewers, how was the story? Please tell us in comments. Thanks.